So I always say money is a byproduct of success. Let's go get it.
Let's shoot a more production.
What's up, everybody? Brianna Moore here, back with another video. Your favorite retired bestie. A lot of times you think about retirement as somebody who's 65 years old, who's worked all of their lives, and now it's time for them to kind of relax and enjoy the fruits of their labor. Me personally, I've been obsessed with retirement since 2020. Yes, since COVID hit. And I figured that if I wanted to become retired, or if I wanted to be a person who worked when I wanted to, or become financially independent, I wanted to figure out how to do it. And honestly, you can figure out how to do it too. There are 4 things that I did in order to become financially independent. 1, educate. 2, execute. 3, elevate. 4, evolve. So before I invested in my first piece of real estate, educated myself for a year, reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Automatic Millionaire, The Psychology of Money. And this came from experiencing COVID and experiencing the Black Lives Matter movement and seeing how we as Black people were still being treated the same as Rodney King. The George Floyd situation kind of mirrored that for me. I know it wasn't the same exact situation, but optics wise, it looked the same. So I decided to switch my reading to reading books about wealth. Honestly, I had to learn the hard way. I had to fail. I had to make some mistakes. However, how I introduce myself to people sometimes, and I say I'm like a Tesla stock in 2008, right? You have to fall up, you have to stumble. Stocks have to go down in order to get back up higher. So what I want to talk to you about today, because you kind of alluded to it before, the 7 steps that I took in order to become financially independent. So again, 1, educate. Had to educate myself. 2, execute. I had to be decisive. So once you decide that you want to do something, there's gonna be a lot of people around you who are going to try to talk you out of it. Execution. And I tell this story all the time. If I would have waited 3 more months to buy my house, I would have had to pay an extra $60,000 to get that. I bought my house in the heat of COVID. Interest rates were 3%. It was a new construction property. I decided to go new construction as a strategy because all of the other houses were being overbid by hundreds of thousands of dollars. And as a travel nurse and somebody who was really and I just become a travel nurse, I was really just starting to make money as an adult. So I wasn't prepared for a bidding war. But I saw a few different properties that were being built up by like Stylecraft, Ryan Homes, H.H. Hunt. All of these different builders were building it up. And as a first-time home buyer, they were kind of like sourcing you out. So I felt like I kind of saw a corner in the market. And some people do use that as a strategy. They solidify the contract. So they sign the contract. The house technically belongs to them while it's still being built. And because you get so much equity in a new construction home, a lot of these people sell those houses. They don't even live in them. They put the house right back on the market after it's built. So that's why I say if I would have waited an extra 3 months to buy my house, it would have cost me an extra $60,000. However, since I was decisive and I made the decision to buy it, I actually gained $60,000 in equity. So that is if anything, if you guys don't leave with anything else today, I would say being decisive and just going for it, doing what you know, because again, we lean on that education piece. If you educated yourself enough to feel like you can make your own decision based on a calculated risk, right? I'm not saying a jump out there, gamble. I'm saying a calculated risk. Then I would say trust yourself and don't let anybody talk you out of it. The third thing, elevation. So after you've educated yourself, and after you have executed, you're not even going to realize the type of things that come from you executing. The elevation comes from when you're able to use what you know and you're able to tailor it to your own life. And when people see what you're doing, they're going to be inspired. So you're going to get elevated in a way that puts your journey on Front Street, and you honestly may become the blueprint if you're doing it right. And of course, evolution. That is when you change into this other person because of what you've done on the back end. So the first time you invest in a stock is going to look a lot different than the 15th, 16th, 17th, or 100th time you invest in a stock. And I'm just using this as an example. The first time you do something is going to look a lot different than the 100th time. So you're going to naturally evolve a different lane in your career. If you're staying in your career, you may decide to evolve into entrepreneurship. And those are the things that kind of happen when you really hone in and you lock in. So I said I did 7 things. The first 4 were mainly mindset. The next 3 are more actionable items because I can appreciate actionable item. When I was learning about money and investing and stocks and finances and economics, which is interesting, I learned that a lot of economists don't necessarily hone in too much on finances. So I had to kind of like seek. I had all of the pieces to a puzzle that I had to pretty much put together. So seeking out the financial piece, these are the 3 steps that I did that I want you guys to kind of like lock in on. So first, awareness. This is the hardest part. It's like, you know, when you're in the 12-step program, they say the first step is to acknowledge that you have a problem. Awareness, acknowledge where your money is going. So write out your expenses. Expenses, I mean rent or mortgage, things that you cannot give up. You have to pay for these things every month in order to live. So rent, utilities, bills, kids, daycare, all of those things. Write those things out on one side. On the other side, write out your income. How much are you bringing in? If there is a gap between that, meaning that you have some money left over, that is amazing, and you're doing better than half of the people in America right now. However, sometimes we are in a situation to where we overspend. So instead of there being a gap and you having more money, you actually have an overlay. So like you're bleeding, you're being squeezed right now. $2,000 is what I needed per month to live. So $2,000 times 12 is a year. That means technically, if I wanted to take a year off from working, I would need to create $24,000 in an account. And I think that breaking it down to that simple formula is what sometimes people are missing. Because if you really want to let's just say you want to take 3 years off, $24,000 times 3 years is $72,000. And I understand these numbers are big and we don't really understand how to get there. And that is the intimidating part. But let's just say you are somebody who is obsessed with retirement like me, then now we're going to go to the next step of this process of becoming financially free. B, stop the bleeding. You have to get rid of your debt. Somebody came on my podcast, I think it was Ron Stokes, and he said, if you didn't have any debt, let's just say you had no debt at all of it was paid off, what would you be doing with the money that you're paying to your credit card every month? Really, what would you be doing? I think that we underestimate how much money is going out every month. With that, I would say the stock market returns about 10 to 13% per year. I invest heavily in tech stocks. I'm reading a book now by J.L. Collins, and I would definitely recommend his book called, I believe it's the Path to Wealth or something like that. But he basically breaks down how to build wealth and how he was able to become financially free with a wife and a kid. And basically he did 3 different things. He increased his income, decreased his expenses, and invested the rest. And you've heard me say this on the show before. Those are the 3 ways. Those are really the 3 ways to be able to become financially free. Invest the rest. He recommends investing in VTSAX, which is an ETF on the stock market, because, you know, some people who are long-term investors, which me, I am a long-term investor. A lot of us who are long-term investors, we think in 5 years, right? So when I started to become obsessed with retirement, I already knew it was going to take me at least 5 to 10 years in order to get there. And I was completely okay with that. Why? Because the time is going to pass anyway. I might as well work towards something. So while I was working towards it, my choice of investments was real estate. However, real estate is very expensive up front. So it was interesting for me to read from a person who mainly only invested in stocks, and I thought that was interesting. So basically he would make money. He would live frugal. And when he wanted to take a break from work, he could take a break from work. Now, whatever this looks like for you, you can kind of tailor it to how you want it to be. However, your money, whatever money that you put into the stock market, it's going to work for you. It's going to work for you a lot better than if you're putting it into a savings account. Now, in order to start, I would say a high yield savings account is something that I would recommend, because it's not in the stock market, but you know, and you have easier access to it. There's less things to do. So while you're figuring out when to invest or where to invest, a high yield savings account is a good bridge. I used to say first step into becoming financially free is to increase your income. I think for me, and at this time in my life, I'm going to backtrack on that statement, and I'm gonna say I don't think it's about how much you make. In most situations, it's not really about how much you make. I think that if you are a person who is really ready to become financially free and you have all of these things going on and you're like, well, I can't invest because I have a child. Look at your bank statements. I feel like if I looked at your bank statement, it would tell me everything that you need to know. I'm telling you, there are leaks. There are leaks in your bank statements. However, I am very, very sensitive to the chicken and the egg theory. Usually people say, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Me personally, I'm gonna say the chicken. I don't feel like you can have an egg without the chicken. You know, God created us as humans first, and he created animals, and then now that then they reproduce. That's just the way that the chicken reproduces, is through an egg. Bam, stamped, sealed, signed, delivered, solved. However, thinking about it in a financial literacy angle, let's just say I'm talking to a single mother. I'm talking to a single mother who has 2 kids, working minimum wage, and her kids are hungry, starving. And me as a farmer comes up to her and I say, hey, like you can either get these 2 eggs right here for $5, or I can give you this chicken for $30. Now, these 2 eggs will feed the mother and the baby for 1 meal, but this chicken will reproduce and keep creating more and more eggs. However, if you're in a scarcity and a poverty type of mindset, why would I get something that's going to take longer to get me something to eat rather than something that is already ready? All I got to do is crack it, put it in the pan, and get it done. This is how I feel about financial literacy, and why I say the mindset teaching of this subject is so important. When we get back to the income, I think that sometimes increasing your income may be one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself, whether that be asking for a raise. I think that on a corporate job, you should be asking for a raise at least every 6 months. At least every 6 months. Or I've helped someone negotiate their corporate job salary before, and I thought it was interesting because, you know, when we do negotiate for ourselves, you feel like you don't want to push too hard because you don't want that person who's offering you the job to take that position away. So what I told her when she was negotiating, I said, listen, if you're on the phone with a negotiator, they already want you. Like, you should push for something. And I asked her to say in the interview, I asked her to say what their budget was. The person said, our budget for this position that we're offering you is about $80,000 to $110,000. If these people told you they got $80,000 to $110,000, wow, and this negotiator's coming on the phone and starting at 70, that means that you have some room to grow. But I would say if you are a person who is about to negotiate, let's just say you're on your job, you've been at your job for however long, 6 months, whatever, a year, 2 years, whenever you're feeling comfortable negotiating, or not even when you feel comfortable negotiating, whenever you feel like you've added value to that company, that's when you need to ask for a raise. I'm not saying to go up to your boss every single day, be like, hey, you got a raise, you got a raise, you got a raise. Obviously, this has to be extremely calculated. But I think that you should list out all of the things that you've done for that company that has created them sources of income. So the person who I was helping, I think she does like procurement or something. I don't know, something in contracts. I don't know. But she saved this company a lot of money by procuring certain contracts. So I asked her to write down, like, yo, how much money have you actually saved this company? And she wrote it down. She looked back at it and she said, Bree, I didn't realize I saved this company millions of dollars. Okay, that sounds like you need you need a little bump in your pay. So that's why I said, when I say increase your income, I'm not saying that you have to go out and create 7 streams. Now, 7 streams of income is good because I truly believe that one is too close to none. But if you're not in a position to do Uber or Lyft or whatever, ask for a raise. I would say that that's the first step, because also, like, I'm extremely spiritual, and I think that God already has all the answers for us, and God puts us in position to be able to stretch ourselves. So if you're not comfortable asking for a raise, in my opinion, I think that is because you don't believe in the gifts that God has given you. You know what I mean? Like, or not that you don't believe in it, or you're seeing God as too small. If you look at your life, there's been a string of events that have gotten you to where you are now, to even getting to that job. and you've had people hype you up, you've hyped yourself up, you've hyped others up. Now it's your turn to be hyped up. But how about you do it with a source that's bigger than you? How about you do it with God? And if you say you're a believer, right? Like if you feel like you're a believer, why limit God? Why? I mean, like, I think that when you get to know yourself, you definitely get to know the person behind making you. When you really start to hone in and lock in on yourself. And then of course, if you make more money, then that's more money for the kingdom. You can spread it around a little bit more. You can be a little bit more comfortable. And you're able to help more people. So I always say money is a byproduct of success. Let's go get it. Now I want to take a few minutes to talk about my book, Investing While Black. I have not promoted my book a lot at all because it's an extremely vulnerable extension of myself. But recently I decided to go out on a limb and I asked the owner of this shop, I said, hey, do you think that I would be able to like sell my books in your store? And I don't know what possessed me to do this. I think that last week was a rough week. I had to do my taxes. What else did I have? Oh, I was applying for a grant. I was building out a curriculum for this financial literacy course that I was doing. And then another grant popped up. So I did 2 grants. I think I was just in go mode last week. I was locked in. And so in the midst of me being in go mode, this idea came up in my head to create another stream of income because I sell my books on Amazon. But like, I was like, I want my book to be local. I want somebody to go and touch it and be able to pick it up and read it. So I reached out to this person and she wrote me back and she said, yeah, like, how about you reach out to the person who does that for us, the person who I guess they wholesale to this person. And this person puts those books in whatever store she feels necessary. So I said, okay, cool. Listen, this person did not give me a name. I said, you know what? I'm going to figure out, look, you've given me all that I need. I'm going to figure everything out. And I said, okay, thank you. So she wrote me back and she's like, do you know the person's name who I'm talking about? I was like, I was going to figure it out. So she ended up giving me the person's Instagram. Funny thing about it, I feel like when you're walking in your purpose, things really do start to align. I am on the board for this organization. I'm on the junior board for this organization. And they had an event that night. This other person that I needed to talk to that does the wholesaling of the books is also on the junior board of this organization. And I walk in and she's like, oh my gosh, I just wrote you on Instagram. Like, you want your book in said place. Do you wholesale? Let me tell you something, y'all. This might be... y'all learning with me. I don't know. When somebody asks me, do I wholesale books? I've only bought my books for myself off of Amazon and have like maybe had them in my trunk and somebody said they wanted something and I sold it to them for $20. So somebody wanting a bulk of my books was foreign to me. And so I don't know, I'll sell them to you for like, I don't know, $4 or $5. And she's like, well, how... And I'm not going to say this person's name because I'm sure she wasn't supposed to give me all of this information. But she said, okay, so how much do you sell them for? I said, I sell them for $20 on Amazon. She said, okay, so you sell them for $20, but you want to give them to me for $4. She's like, that doesn't make sense. She's like, usually if you speak to publishers, they're going to say it's probably like normal for you for them to pay like 38 to 48% of the sale price of your book. So she's like, I'm going to give you whatever. I'm not going to say how much, but 38 to 40% of the book is what she gave me. And I was like, oh, wow. And since it's April, which is Financial Literacy Month, I told her that. I'm like, hey, like I have a bulk of books in my car because I'm having a financial literacy event. And one of the curators wanted to buy my books to give them away inside of the gift bags. And so I just had them in my car. And she's like, oh, okay. Because at first she only wanted to buy 2. And I said, it's Financial Literacy Month. Then she bought 5. So I'm just saying, when you're literally walking in your purpose and you do something that you don't know why you're doing it, it's that voice. Like, it's that little voice in the back of your head telling you that it's time to elevate. It's time to evolve. You are worthy. Reach out. Because if she would have said no, the worst thing that I could have got was a no. But it's like literally everything aligned. So now you can catch my books. I'm not sure if they're there yet, so I'm not going to say exactly where they are. But yes, so this book, and something that I also realized about this book is for the nurses.